Billiken fans, before we get going on this episode, we owe Lyndsey Heckel a small apology. We do this, Pete and I, in person once a year, maybe twice when you come back, and who knows. But the technology is jerry-rigged, to say the least. We're using my phone propped up as a camera. We're using we had to use my speaker on my laptop to hear her, so I'm still not sure how the sound is going to come out. I'm hoping for the best, but again, apologies, Lyndsey. We're sorry. The technology is just, the setup was not wonderful.
Yeah, and we not only is our typical setup where we're each at our own space on a Zoom call a little more conducive to doing an interview.
Yes.
I don't have the mute button, so when I have a coughing fit at the end of the interview, I didn't really have anywhere to go. So sorry, yes. Sorry about that too. We'll be more professional next time around.
Yes,
we promise.
Yes, and when you win the Herman Trophy, you're welcome to come back on, and we'll do it proper next time.
Yeah. We knew her when.
Yes. Thank you again to Lyndsey Heckel for coming on again. Apologies. Welcome back into the Midtown Madness Podcast. It's Peter Hale and Zach Miller. Before we get going, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hammer those like and subscribe buttons. And if you're watching on YouTube, you get to see us live from MMPHQ STL, Pete.
Yeah, just like you could see us live if you were at Humphreys last night after the
or Duke's, or wherever we ended up. Chava's Mexican restaurant. That salsa was so hot. Speaking of salsa, and I didn't even plan that one.
Seamless.
I didn't plan that one. This episode and the whole season of Midtown Madness is brought to you by 2 Men in a Garden. Whether you like it mild or hot, chunky or cantina style, the people over at 2 Men have you covered. I know what you're asking, Zach. Why 2 Men in a Garden? Well, as we learned last night, I love salsa. And they're a 100% St. Louis company. Not only do they support local, but they opened up their production facility to local food entrepreneurs. They love St. Louis the way I do. You can pick up their many products at any local grocery store or online at 2meninthegarden.com. Follow them on all social media at 2mensalsa. We're going to talk Billiken basketball, but some news came out with the women's soccer program, the end of season awards, Pete, and it was the All-American team, the semifinalists for the Herman Trophy, and St. Louis Billikens' own Lyndsey Heckel is a semifinalist for the Herman Trophy and a first-team All-American, and we're going to talk to her right now. All right, Billiken fans, we have a special guest, and she's not only going to talk to us about her recent accolades, but she's been gracious enough to talk to us about the U.S. men's national team as well and the World Cup. Lyndsey Heckel, welcome to the Midtown Madness Podcast, our first women's soccer player to join the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
I'm assuming you caught yesterday's game and you've been watching the World Cup. How cool is it to see guys like Tim Ream, Josh Sargent, guys that are from the area represent the country?
Oh, it's awesome, especially since Tim and I, we play the same position. So it's really cool to see all his tactics and how he goes about the game. It's really cool to see.
So you do zero in as a defender when you're watching, the pros.
Yeah.
They're doing specifically. And what do you see from Tim Ream in this tournament that made him so good?
He was definitely the calming, the competent defender for them this tournament. He was there and he was reliable for everybody, and he was making tackles and blocking shots, and it was just really cool to see.
In any of these games, do you think, was he pretty steady throughout? Was there a performance of his that stood out to you at all?
I guess yesterday's was a big one for him because Netherlands was very fast up top, and Tim Ream's not the fastest guy. So he was able to hold his own back there, and that was cool of him he blocked a couple shots, I remember yesterday, and he was staying with those forwards and making key passes for the U.S. too. So good to see.
when you see the goals that were scored by the Netherlands yesterday, Tim Ream, his reactions were very like, "You're not where you're supposed to be." What was happening with his wide defenders? Because it looked like it was like Anthony Robinson and the other wide defenders that were kind of.
Oh my gosh, I was so mad. I was like, can they not do this at this level? But I don't know what goes on, but just the marking in the box was a problem yesterday for sure. Tim Ream and Anthony Robinson were marking the same guy on the last goal.
Yes.
It looked like, and Robinson was like so focused on the ball that like he didn't see the guy behind him. And as a center defender though, like you kind of have to have your head on a swivel though. So like tell your wing back like, hey, there's someone behind you. So it goes on both of them.
Do you think that was kind of in over their head in that like you've got a team like the Netherlands that are so, they have such a rich history that you maybe give them a little too much credit and you get caught ball watching because you enter that fan space, right? Where you're just like, oh my God, like this guy is insane on the ball. And then, or they're moving the ball so fast, you forget what you actually have to do.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Maybe that could be it. But I know that like the U.S. had majority of the possession though yesterday, and I think that was maybe how the Netherlands wanted to go about it, because that's something that the U.S. is not very comfortable with, is being the one always in possession. Like, I don't know, I feel like we're like an underdog story, so like we like to be chasing, we like to just press the team. Can't really cuss on here, so it's like just press the team.
Hey,
press the team really hard.
Coach did it.
Okay, Katie did it. Press the living shit out of like teams who were always like in possession. And so when they were always in possession, then like they weren't really comfortable with like moving the ball in the flank areas and trying to get good service in, it looked like. So yeah, I think that's what I saw.
So you and Josh Sargent both hail from O'Fallon, Missouri. How much were you aware of him growing up in the local soccer community?
Can you say that again? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
How much aware of Josh Sargent were you growing up? You both are from O'Fallon.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't go to Dominic, but like that's like 10 minutes from my house. But so like I knew of him. He's only 2 years older than me. He graduated in 2018. I graduated in 2020. So like I knew of him, and like I knew of him for playing like I think the academy level at Gallagher and everything. So like it's cool to see that someone from my hometown is like playing in the World Cup. Like that's something that could happen for anybody,
You're a semifinalist for the Herman Trophy, which is the Heisman of men's and women's soccer. To be recognized like that has to be kind of surreal, right?
Oh, for sure. Definitely was not expected at all.
It's kind of funny because you think of like these major awards and they're always going to the goal scorers, the people that stuff the stat sheet. And defense, it's not a pretty position, and you don't get the accolades. So I mean, like, what? I don't even know if there's a question there. Yeah, no. So you and Sophia Stram have been praised for your stout defending. Obviously, defense involves the goalkeeping as well. Mm-hmm. How does having a player like Piriselli behind you change the way you're able to defend?
I don't know if it's much changes, but I know like if there's not a lot of room for mistakes from my position, but like if that one ever happens, I know that like she's there and she's gonna make some unreal acrobatic save or come out diving. Like she's always gonna be there, and like we have each other's back, so we always tell each other that before games and everything. So yeah.
What is it about this current staff right now? Coach Shields, Chris Allen, Olivia Silverman. What is it about them that really seems to attract talent?
Their care for like the players as a person too, just not as a player. Like, they care for the whole person and the student part too, along with like the mental health part of things. So like, that's really cool to see. And I don't know if that happens everywhere you go. Definitely know some stories that like that doesn't happen, but so like
goalkeeper, that terrible event that happened with her. So
Yeah, for sure. But I think that and it's just a fun time. Like they try to make it fun too. Like we're always laughing and joking with each other. Like, yeah, it's a great time.
What was your personal recruitment experience like to SLU?
So SLU was my first visit ever, like back before the rule change too. So like I was a sophomore, like newly a sophomore, like fall of my sophomore year when I went and visited. And I don't know, I liked it. I went on like one or two other visits, but then like so Jess Porser and I we actually did a little visit together then like in February of that next year. And she committed right after that, and then I committed like a week or two after that. And so I always knew it was going to be SLU. I figured out early that I was a homebody, so had to stay close.
Was it always going to be soccer though? Because like you were, as it turns out, a pretty good basketball player too.
Yeah, I was always going to be soccer, much to my parents' chagrin, but yeah, I was always going to be soccer because they had to learn the game. That was like the hardest part for them, was like learning soccer. They knew basketball, but yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was like an indoor outdoor thing or if there was more travel or what.
No, but like that's that from high school.
Oh, okay.
Cool. You mentioned being a homebody and staying close. One of our favorite things on this show, though, are travel stories from, road trips to games. Is there any wild travel stories you guys have? Like anything that went awry? Like, a bus driver getting really drunk on wine and stealing the bus? What kind of
Nothing like that. Nothing too
actually happened, by the way. That's a true story.
Oh, really?
Basketball story, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no. There wasn't anything crazy like that, but like last season, like last fall, we were going to play Duquesne and we were flying there, and we get close to Pittsburgh and the captain comes on and is like, there's a storm over the airport, we can't land right now. And like instead of like just flying around, he's like, we're gonna go to Buffalo. So we went to Buffalo instead, sat on the tarmac for like over an hour and a half. And then we took off again and then finally landed 4 hours past our landing time. And we got there really late. Our dinner was already at the hotel at the normal time. So our dinner was cold and it was terrible.
I want to talk about the Memphis. Obviously, like not, we don't have to get too far into the weeds, but I know, I'm sorry. But when you get a draw like that, how does that affect kind of the team? Does the team rally together? Is there a little bit of like, what the hell? Or like, what's the reaction there?
There was a little bit of like, really, like, because it wasn't anybody was expecting that, like at all. Like everyone had like a few people in mind, like teams that we were going to play. And so like when we saw that, we were like, okay. But then like, for me at least, I was like, all right, it's just time to grind out another win, like against a decent squad like Memphis. So like I was like, we can do it. We've definitely played tougher teams than Memphis. So I just knew that we could grind out another win, but obviously that did not happen, but that's okay.
You a person that likes playing in the cold weather, or because I am not. I am a huge wussy.
I prefer the cold over the heat, the blazing heat. Yeah, I prefer the cold. That was a little bit too cold because we weren't really used to that was like our first real cold day of the year, like of the fall. And it's like I wasn't really used to it, but I like playing the cold way better.
Have you started to think about the entirety of this season in terms of like it was a dream season, breaking every record as a team in the SLU record books, and now the individual accolades are starting to pile up too. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Started to think about the what this season meant, given that it was so great but ended so abruptly in a game like that.
Yeah, I think that's why it hurt so bad, was because no one was expecting to be done or ready to be done yet. So I think that's why that that last one hurt so bad and still stung for a good long time after a loss. But no, yeah, it was a crazy season. Everything just came together, like from the struggles of last season to like really working hard in the spring, that like everything came together, and it was awesome to see everyone's drive to like want to keep winning, and all the individual stuff too, like people doing awesome. I don't know what to say. Everyone's awesome.
You mentioned how much you liked SLU on your recruiting visit. What is it about SLU that you think that Katie Shields really relishes and really enjoys and makes her want to stay here for the foreseeable future?
That she wants to build a program that's like nationally recognized now, and like that people, like big recruits, want to come here now. And so I think that we're well on our way to doing that, and I like being a part of that. And while we may not be like, what am I trying to say here? I think we're catching people's eyes now, and especially from like the committees and all that. So like I feel like people actually want to come here now, because like before it's always been, I know she said this in the past, like a struggle keeping like local talent, but now everyone locally like wants to come here, and it's close to home, and so your families can be at games. So I think that's why she's going after the local talent first.
Looking ahead to next season, what's kind of the plan? I mean, you're losing quite a bit, I believe, heading in. I don't have it in front of me because I just came up with this question. Sorry, but yeah, I mean, what's the outlook like? What is the expectation?
To do it all again. That's the expectation. I'm like, Katie definitely will make that clear and everything, but like I don't expect anything less than winning the regular season and winning the A10 championship again. That's what I want to do, because I want to get another ring, and I want to go far in the NCAA tournament, farther than we did last year for sure. Like make it to the Sweet 16 at least, like bare minimum.
You mentioned going far. What is your kind of goal with soccer? Like, I mean, SLU and beyond.
I don't have that figured out yet. Wish I did, but at SLU at least I hope to make it to the Sweet 16 next year, and then maybe even beyond next year, or even the year after that. I would just give that away.
One other thing pops in mind for me, given your high school, but Becky Sauerbrunn is another, national team player.
Yep.
Out of Narings Hall.
No, she was Ladue. Yeah.
Dang.
Lori Kalepny was from Narings.
That's who I got it mixed up with. Okay, but because she plays your position anyway, and she is. Did you kind of look at her as like model your game on her or anything like that growing up?
Yeah, especially when they've been playing this year. I've been watching her a lot more. Just again, she's like that calming, like reliable factor, I think, back there, same as both her and Tim Ream are older, so I think that's how they fit into that role back there. Definitely started watching, I don't know, whoever it was for back there for the US women's team when I moved to center back when I became a freshman here at SLU, because I haven't played this position more than 2 years. Yeah.
Wow. Where were you at originally?
So my freshman year was that COVID year, so we didn't play in the fall. But like I started out there as like where Hannah Larson plays, like on the wing, or Caroline. Like I was a 9 or like a 7-11 in the wing. Like I played there all fall until the last 2 weeks when they threw me back because we had some injuries, and they threw me back there. They'd always talked about that, maybe trying me at defense, but then it didn't happen until the end of that semester. And then 2 weeks at center back, came back next January to start our season, and I've been at center back ever since.
I one of my least favorite things is talking about that COVID year in sports in general, just actually really just in life. But I'm curious what it was like as a player to have those kind of just bizarre experiences. You have the travel, you have, constantly testing, all that kind of stuff. But the game against, was it Oklahoma State at home, where you had to wait like 3 hours to play?
Yeah, so I guess I'm allowed to talk about this. Oklahoma State girl like woke up sick. Like, I don't know if it was like COVID, but like I think I heard something that like she threw up. I don't know. But so like they were testing her, and they were waiting for all that. That's why we were delayed that game.
What was
And
it
then
like? Have to
yeah.
I mean, you that a delay is not something that happens in soccer. So what's that like as a team? Like, what do you guys do to kind of, stay focused, or do you kind of mentally go somewhere else and then come back?
We just try to stay loose and figure out because I think of the Notre Dame game, like that was rain delay, lightning delay. Like we had 10 minutes to go in the first. So like we were just all trying to stay like loose and like on the same page and like stay on the same page collectively and try to make it light and fun. We were playing music in the locker room, just like trying to stay loose. Yeah.
One of the things I love about this team is just like the attitude pregame. I mean, it always seems like there's fun going, like it's just fun. Everyone, the music is like great. The choice of pregame music, I think everyone knows I love that. But like, who kind of leads that? Is that all Bree Halverson? Because that's what it seems to me anyway. She seems like the catalyst of like the loose nature.
She's definitely a factor in it for sure. Because that girl, she's crazy. She's insane. I love her though. But yeah, so like the warm-up playlist, that was put together by the seniors last year, like true seniors last year. So like that was like Emily Grorick, Anna Lawler, like Hannah Frederick. They all put that together last year and like everyone loves it. And so we kept it this year. Like it's such a good playlist, like together. And then like when we come back out from the locker room, like that just started this year with like that song from Hannah Montana.
Oh, that song cooks.
Yes, it's so good. And then everyone just like, because like that for me is like when the nerves start to hit before any game. Like doesn't matter who we're playing, like I still get nervous. So like having that song come on and like jumping around, dancing around with like Carol and Soph is like something that keeps me loose and like excited to play. So yeah.
Yeah, I just think that the culture around this team is something that is incredible, because I mean, talking to Katie, she said, she really struggled with that early on in her career here. So I think, that loose nature ahead of the games, I think it just sets the tone. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's kind of what I see.
Like I feel like everyone knows like we have business to take care of like on the field, but like we like to have fun too. So like that's how we stay loose. So yeah.
Hey, Lyndsey, I appreciate you joining us, getting up early on a Sunday to chat with us.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you so much, and best of luck on the Herman Trophy semifinalist. Just I sure as hell think you deserve it. So,
thank you.
Congrats on the first Team All-American.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yes. Crazy. Not expecting any of that, but
we're both dying over here. Sorry. No, he's fine. He's trying to get out of the reach of the microphone is what he's trying to do. Cough. But yeah, no. Thank you again for joining us, and enjoy the off season, and can't wait to see you guys back on the field next year.
Yep, me too. See ya. Thank you.
Thanks. Peter, a good week of Billiken basketball to talk about. We'll start off with an 80-63 win versus Tennessee State on Wednesday, November 30th. This game, when you're looking at it, if you look at it, you're like, oh, the Billikens, they beat Tennessee State by 17, okay. But then you have Yuri Collins in this one. Holy smokes.
I think, yeah, he's the story of this game. This is one of those games that, you're right, goes through the season and there really isn't much of a story. We beat Tennessee State by 17, okay. His own assist record has now been broken at SLU. He had 20. The more amazing thing to me, because we know how many assists he's capable of every night if guys finish, if guys hit shots. One turnover to go with 20 assists is just ridiculous. It's not like he was trying to force everything through himself and making mistakes. I mean, to just play that level of low error basketball, everything going through him is just incredible.
Yeah, and we talk about finishing, and we can get into that eventually, because there's been the Billikens have lacked their finishing inside, but He easily could have broken the NCAA record in this one.
Yeah, which is 24?
Yes.
Okay.
And speaking of which, he's the 24th player in Division I history to reach 20 in a game. Again, he said it himself. He should have had 25 or 26. And it's the most assists in D1 since 2017.
Yeah, and that's that last one was Trey Young. So that's pretty good company to keep, I think, if you're going to be breaking college records.
Yeah, I mean, if for a guy that wants to get to the league, coming behind Trey Young, in the record books is something that people are going to see. But while Yuri Collins did get 20 assists, the first half was pretty stagnant offensively.
Yeah, it really was. And if we had kind of finished just a little bit better, put a little more distance between us and Tennessee State, I think it would be a different narrative around this one. I mean, it did take a run late in the half. Even though Tennessee State hit a shot to make it 10 at halftime, SLU did go on a bit of a run to put a little separation between the two teams. But like Ford said at his little quick halftime interview there, he wasn't happy at all with how they responded to Tennessee State switching up defenses on them a lot in those first 15 minutes. He thought their offense was just bad in general. So even though we have this narrative about Yuri being this offensive guru and racking up all these assists, it's weird that it came out of a game where the coach was so frustrated with our offense for so long.
Yeah, we saw a nice game from Perkins in this one, which was nice to see. Obviously, not the competition level that we're going to see in the A10, but 15-3, nothing to
Yeah.
Be upset about or be I mean there's he's getting back.
The 3 is almost as important as the 15 because those first few games he wasn't even putting himself in position for rebounds.
I think
really
that's a super underrated part of his game.
Yeah, he's like, just to see him sort of gradually get back up to speed. You need these games against teams like Tennessee State where he can get a little more run, get a little more comfortable. It's a process, and as we'll talk about in the next game, it doesn't mean big minutes in every game.
Yeah, Pickett is really. I want to go on to another JP. Javon Pickett has really been a catalyst for this team with Javonte Perkins struggling.
Pickett has been. He does all the little things. He's kind of.
He's Jordan Goodwin. He is the Jordan Goodwin role. I can't do. That would be unfair to put him. Put those two next to each other. It's kind of like picking your favorite child. Which child is your favorite, by the way, Peter? No, Javon Pickett he really is the junkyard dog that Jordan Goodwin was. It's almost as if he was born to play the role on this team. Like for all of the stick he got from Mizzou fans, leaving, how many that we had on Kai from 3-Man Weave.
Yeah.
And Kai was like, I don't see it. I didn't see it at Mizzou. I think he might have just been in a bad role.
I think that's part of it. I think it had to do with the supporting cast at Mizzou.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of factors there, but I think he's going to physically match up better in the A10, where guys aren't quite as big, not quite as athletic. Excuse me. But I also think it's translating to these early season games, and he's just he just finds ways to kind of exploit whatever the matchup is. He does a lot off the ball. You say what, blue collar junkyard dog? Use your cliche of choice. But yeah, that's him.
It's we're both struggling this morning. This is the first time we've ever recorded in the morning.
I can normally mute myself.
Yes, exactly. Sorry, I can't. It's Pickett, man. He just his game doesn't translate. His game translates to times when the Billikens aren't playing well because it's not a skill, there's skill there, but there's effort. His game is an effort game.
Right. Yeah.
We laughed at Junior Clay's name in the last show.
We did.
And I think he listened.
Yeah.
People are gonna hate this episode so much because we're both just gonna be like making just horrific noises. But yeah, he finished with 17-8. He's a nice player, and I am shocked that Guy Phillips didn't call him Jer Clay.
Yeah, guys grown on the mic over the years, I guess.
And speaking of Guy Phillips, he had a bit of another hiccup in this game, did he not?
You
heard it on the broadcast, and I texted you, and you were the one that tweeted it.
Oh yes, he did.
Pickett. Speaking of Pickett, goes in for an uncontested fast break dunk, and Guy Phillips started saying Javon before the dunk, and he misses it.
Before it went in.
Yes. It didn't go in.
It rimmed out, so he had to kind of cut himself off. It was a little embarrassing.
Oh, my God. I was like, oh, you son of a... When you start impacting the play on the court...
Right.
I got problems.
Yeah. Wait a second, guy.
Yeah. Larry Hughes Jr. Made the most of his 3 minutes of action. He hit a three and grabbed a rebound, and then committed 2 fouls just to let us know he was there.
That's right. If you're gonna become one of those guys who comes in off the end of the bench, you have a limited opportunity to make yourself known.
And you can go one of 2 ways with that. You can go the Mark Titus route.
Just foul somebody.
No, you just go for a trillion. You don't want to make any impact at all.
Yeah, right.
Or you can, come in and chuck. And I think Hughes found a nice middle ground here.
Right, he did. Yeah.
I really like Hughes.
I think he's going to be good.
Yes.
I like the fact that we're getting him some minutes this year. Because next year, things open wide up for everybody on the end of this roster.
I mean, we're going to have what I think is about to happen is we're going to have Sion Medley and Larry Hughes Jr., and it's going to be a little bit of that Jordair Jet, Mike McCall dual point guard situation. So. And I think, it's kind of like that Moneyball replacing in the aggregate. Replacing Yuri Collins by bringing in 2 guys that can pass and 2 guys that can score. And that way, you're not relying on Sion Medley to come in as a freshman. You can platoon or play them together.
I still think Medley's going to be 1A. But the fact of the matter is, I think Ford realizes, you have your point guard, but you need depth there. We've been really exposed in recent years. Whenever Yuri's out, we need to kind of figure out how to do things without him there. So that's important.
What did you think of Ford pulling the bigs every time they made a mistake? And it continued. It continued in SIU. But I thought, and we'll get to it in SIU, because I actually thought he did better, and it was more meaningful and it felt a little more like, we need to do this.
Sure.
But Okoro has really struggled in the early season. I don't know why, but Okoro, gets yanked as soon as he misses a shot, which he's done a lot.
He's had some good games. He's had some productive games. Yeah. But he has struggled to find his touch around the basket. It kind of feels like his timing is off, or I don't know what's going on. His hands just seem to be a little bit off so far this year. And I think he really is a couple made field goals every game away from being a completely different player this season. He's just struggling to find his touch a little bit. I don't know whether the management of that is right or wrong. I guess time will tell, because yanking a guy whenever he misses a shot or makes a mistake, every big was kind of on a short leash in this one, and I guess time will tell if that's Ford knows better than we do how they're going to respond to things. And Okoro did come out, to his credit, after being benched to start the first half with a big putback and a big block too. So it did kind of feel like he had that sort of angry response that turned into production on the court.
He's just got, I think the catalyst for Okoro has to be on the defensive end.
It does.
I think the more he gets blocks, the more he denies, that entry pass into the post, the more he, I just think he's got to get it going on the defensive end, and that's going to lead to to him regaining his confidence.
Yeah.
And speaking of denying passes into the post, part of the narrative in the media has been SLU finding ways to force more turnovers. It didn't happen in this one. Tennessee State had 10. SLU only had 8, though.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with Yuri Collins really taking care of the ball. But I thought for the lack of turnovers forced, the defensive effort was there in this one.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think that, that they went for it. I thought, I think early in the first half, Yuri was trying to pick their point guard's pocket. I think a couple loose balls went to the floor. But yeah, I didn't, it's the things that lead to those turnovers that you're seeing and you're really are giving you hope, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
Reason to be positive.
If the turnover battle is going to be 10-8, I'm not going to lose sleep over that. If we're turning it over more like 15 times and they turn it over 10, that's a bigger concern for me. Every game is a little bit different. But yeah, I was fine with the defensive effort in this one. I'm more concerned about, when we're turning over Umsel 9 times in a game or something like that.
Yeah, I think rebounding, it's those turnovers and the rebounding.
Yeah.
So rebounding's still a concern. I mean, I've heard in the stands, people, grab with 2 hands, and I don't see a lot of that.
Yeah.
Like they kind of go up with one hand trying to ward off the defender or the, their guy they're boxing up with because they're not boxing out well.
Right.
So, I think the effort, again, there's effort there, and I just think this team is just going to take a few more games before they can, they really put it all together. And it's coming. And we're going to talk about SIU Carbondale, where we saw it come together in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
The pregame in this one. So the Billikens, they beat SIU Carbondale 85-72 on December 3rd. The pregame, Pete, shout out to Carter Chapley. The vibes weren't good.
No.
The vibes were not good pregame.
No, I had the good fortune to sit next to
You were in the thick of it.
I was in 118, right above the tunnel, sitting by my friends Larry and Joanne, and we were looking, kind of around with about 4 minutes to tip off. Like
I was praying for you.
Where is everybody?
Yeah.
I mean, it was so weird. Like there was just nobody in the student section. Nobody. I mean,
there was
we
none.
were just counting them. It was like
yeah, there
12,
were more.
15.
I think I got a text message that said there's more coaches. I think Tony sent a text message to me. He says there's more coaches than students.
I don't know what, and yeah, they kind of showed up. As it got a little bit closer to tip off, they kind of showed up, but still not the strongest student section in general. I don't know why 3:00 on a Saturday is a tough time to get them there. Maybe that's nap time for students these days. I don't really remember having much to do at 3 on a Saturday if it wasn't basketball related.
Yeah, I think so. What I was told, because we tweeted out, and credit to our followers because they came through like with DMs and tweets at us, and so apparently they pushed finals up a week. So now they have one more week of classes then finals. So finals are coming up. So again, and the DMs were not, hey, come on, man. The students got finals. They were more just, look, like finals are coming up. Not a good excuse, but there are reasons, right?
Yeah, I mean,
so look, but finals aside, there are people that don't give that much of a shit about school. There are students.
I can confirm that.
I would put basketball above studying for a final.
Yeah,
for 2 hours.
Especially if maybe SLU has gotten more rigorous academically since we went there. Because I could tell you, if I still had another week of class before finals, I was not focused on finals yet.
No, but
maybe you and I are not the best representatives.
No, I think that there's got to be. I mean, it's not a big school. We know that. But there's got to be a set of students that care more about going to a basketball game for 2 hours on a Saturday, 2 weeks out from finals, than studying for finals. And I think some of this is on the marketing department and the athletic department, too. Because you looked around, because I said, is there a party or something? So I was at my seat, and I go, because I brought my mom to the game. Shout out, Mom. And I go, I'm gonna go grab a drink and see why there's no students here. See if there's a party or something, a pregame thing. No, there was nothing.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, even if you got to pull out like a giveaway, you have to pull out all the stops. It's an Arch-Rivalry. You know that it's Carbondale.
Yeah.
You know that there's nothing to do in Carbondale on a Saturday. You have to get students in the door because, like you said, the fans were noticeable.
Yeah, so where I was, we're wedged in between the visiting fans and the students, right? So it's
students.
It's a fun section to sit in when everybody's there. But Carbondale, like Dayton, shows up in force.
Yes.
And by the way, their students would be there if this game were in Carbondale. So we're next to all of these loud, standing, people in maroon the whole time, and the students just couldn't be bothered. Not the best place to be necessarily. I will say, unlike nobody on card, they weren't necessarily talking trash to us or anything like that. They were just trying to make a lot of noise, make their presence felt,
that's their goal. I mean, we'd be doing the same thing.
Yeah, right.
But I think, and I talked to some people at Humphreys after the game. Shout out Humphreys. And I said that game. The vibes, you looked at it and you say, okay, students aren't here. Okay, strike one.
Yeah.
Strike two, SIU Carbondale fans have invaded Chaffetz. We're in trouble. Start hammering. If I don't bet anymore, I no longer gamble, but I might take Carbondale to cover. I think, and to be fair, I was very nervous.
Because, I was too.
I mean, I'm already a bit of a lunatic at games, and my mom's there, and I'm like, oh God, she's going to disown me after this one.
If she hasn't by now.
Yeah, no. So I was very worried going into this game about what was going to happen, and my fears were eased by that dude, Javon Pickett.
Oh, man. What a game.
Unbelievable game. Maybe the most complete Billiken performance in... I mean, recency bias, sure, it helps. But 32 minutes, 23 points, 6 rebounds, 8 of 10 from the field, 2 of 2 from three-point range, no turnovers. And he started off the game and got us a bucket quick.
Yeah.
And that is... There is no, I mean, yes, but there is nothing that eases my nerves better than an early bucket. If we miss our first shot, I am terrified.
Yeah. Pickett did. I mean, Pickett was the story of the first half, I think, in this one. Yuri's assists were another one. I think he had
14.
Yeah, overall, but I think 9 or 10 of those were in the first half. So he was really racking them up in the first half, and Pickett was a big reason why, because he was just finishing. He played I think you called it a grown man's game yesterday during the game. It really was. I mean, he's really finding ways to be effective and has become fun to watch, honestly.
Speaking of newcomers, and I want to get this out there because I forgot to put it in the notes, but we have the replay on above the camera. Sincere Parker had limited minutes in this one. I think maybe 5 to 8 minutes.
Sure.
And he had maybe the play of the game.
It was a block, if we're thinking of the same one,
yes,
right?
It was a block in the most LeBron sense of the word block.
He exploded for this one,
and it was a track down block too, if I recall, right? I mean, that changes the game.
Yeah.
In that moment, that the game is the narrative is flipped, right? I mean, we made a terrible turnover, and Sincere Parker but he almost telegraphed the block. You saw him and you're like,
he wanted it the whole time.
Oh,
everybody saw it coming.
It was
you just
the
didn't
most.
know how emphatic it was going to be.
I mean, I think I made noises that I don't think I make very often in reaction. Jimerson though, we'll get to the heavy minute guys, the heavy stat line guys. Found ways to get good looks from three in this one, whether it was the flare screen, it was in the first half, I believe. But Highmark, on that, right after that, he mentions that Forte talked with him about teams adjusting to Jimerson, or Forte talked to Jimerson, and he explained that, teams are everybody has video. Everybody has it. And so you've got to keep finding creative ways to get open, which is funny because Jimerson was basically spending all of last year trying to get open.
That's right.
So, but I really liked Jimerson in this one, and he was his shot was so pure in this one.
Yeah, and he's a cerebral guy. I think he's up for that challenge if Forte is going to give him that. Mm-hmm. Last year we talked constantly about how he was just getting shoved and bumped and tugged everywhere he goes on the floor. So I think he's probably up for the challenge. Our hope this year was that the presence of Perkins and Parker would neutralize some of the defensive stopping methods against Jimerson, because we have other guys now to kind of keep teams honest, and Perkins not being up to full health yet, Parker not being up to full minutes yet, we're still seeing Jimerson kind of get the star treatment. And so he's got to adjust.
I want to talk about Yuri Collins. I know, shocking, right? Yeah. But what I want to do on this one is I want to talk about an aspect of his game that I think is huge, and we just saw him do it on the replay. Getting to the foul line, is maybe better than score. Like, I love when he gets to the line because it says, he doesn't need to actually score. Right. He's amazing. Like, one of another underrated aspect of his game is being able to finish through contact. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. And he got to the line on maybe 3 occasions in this game, and I thought it was at super key moments in the game.
When you're a small guard like that, you need to be really, really smart about when you take it inside, when you're trying to finish at the rim. You have to be that much smarter than everybody else. We're watching this now. We just saw him draw a foul.
It was
12 feet from the basket. Yeah, the other one was closer to the rim. When Yuri goes to the rim and there's bigs who collapse on him and he gets a shot blocked, which does happen, you go, why did you do that? But when you draw a foul or finish, you look like a really smart player who's opportunistic, who's finding your spots. Yuri has gotten better about that this season. I do think he still has
he did it again there.
3 fouls in a row. And this is at the under 12 media in the second half. So we've now watched him on 3 consecutive, actually 2.
And this was when the game was at an 8-point lead.
Right.
So, you're looking at a shrinking lead, and Yuri is getting there and getting us points in ways that we're not getting points otherwise.
That's right. Yeah. He has to be that much smarter. I do think in late close game situations, he probably leans toward forcing it a little bit too much. But throughout the run of the game, he's gotten smarter about it.
I thought his vision in this one was really on display.
Yeah.
The jump, Highmark mentioned, Highmark and McLaughlin were both coaches tell you when you start playing basketball, don't jump with the ball if you don't know what you're going to do with it. And there are on many occasions where, and I think, there was an occasion where he jumped and made the pass to Thatch. There were several times where he found Thatch under the basket. But there was another time where there was Jimerson off the screen, and I thought he was going to throw the lob to Thatch, and I think I mentioned it. Yeah. And I was like, watch this. He's going to look for Thatch. And he found Jimerson coming off the screen. I go, or that. Right. It's just, there's so many things he can do. Highmark even says, I think Yuri's the only player in the arena that or the only person in the arena, not even a player. He's the only person of the 9,000 people in that arena that see these open lanes for passes. It's incredible. Right. Yeah. It's easy to watch on TV and see it, and you still don't see it.
Yeah, no, that's right. His instincts, his vision are tremendous. As long as he's just not trying to do too much, not trying to force things, he's just so effective.
I saw a video on YouTube of Lionel Messi, and it was about Messi scanning. He's just always.
Oh yeah.
I would love to see somebody lock in on Yuri Collins and see when he's like, because to be fair, I don't know if you would actually see him doing this. I think you can't. He just moving his eyes.
Yeah.
It's just his eyes, and it's really, really impressive. The struggles in this game. Perkins, man, 8 minutes, 3 points, 2-player control fouls that you could just see coming. And I don't know if they were I don't know if he even got his money's worth on him, because I felt like there was a bit of an embellishment from the SIU defender, but you still cannot extend your arm. I mean, that you're asking for it. And is his struggle to get, his turning into a frustration?
Before I had said that Perkins, because of his more limited burst and speed and mobility at this point, the games that have been the worst for him have tended to be like the Auburns and Memphises, like the teams that are Maryland, the biggest, most physical opponents, that are taking it right at him, that are forcing him to play a more physical game. Against Tennessee State and teams like that, he's able to kind of find his spots more as an outside shooter. And then maybe as things open up, he can start to experiment a little bit more, taking it to the basket, hitting a mid-range shot off the dribble, some of the things that we're more used to him doing. I think SIU just had him really scouted well in this one. I think that, the guy guarding him just kind of knew what his limitations and tendencies are, and they, to their credit, I think they did shut him down. They knew how to draw fouls here, and maybe that did turn into some frustration.
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think Perkins, you play against these big physical teams, and you get used to playing one way and trying that way to beat them. And then you come up against an SIU team that's a little more, they're not floor burn you anymore. They're, they're a little bit more finesse, and you start to try to do those things that you would do against a team like Maryland or Auburn. Yeah. And they're more pushovers in SIU. So, I think it's okay to take a step back. It's okay. As long as you continue to move forward in games, like next game, you want to see a step forward. Yeah. You take a step forward against Tennessee State, you take maybe a half step back against SIU. So, it's not linear. It's like going to the gym. You're not adding 5-pound plates on every time you go to the squat rack. You're not. That just doesn't work like that. Right. Again, struggles. Okoro. I think, did we bemoan the point enough last game?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know what the balance is between mental and physical. What I'm seeing as we watch the replay here, I don't think he's giving himself the easiest shot available. Yeah. When your primary focus is scoring at the basket, your footwork, your decision making have to be sharp, and sometimes he's kind of worked himself into the more difficult shot, is what I'm kind of seeing in the SIU game.
Speaking of errors and making mistakes, I think you missed maybe this part of the game.
Well, I was sitting. I saw it.
You saw it? Okay, because I thought you mentioned that you didn't catch the part about with the SIU turnovers.
Oh no, I saw those.
Yeah. This was insane.
Yeah.
I have no idea what to make of this, because I'm genuinely unsure if we forced those turnovers or SIU just didn't know what they were doing.
It was really weird because it happened on 3 consecutive plays and then again a fourth time a minute later in the first half. And basically they were just throwing it out of bounds.
To the same spot.
To the same spot.
In the same move. Like, it was the same motion.
Yeah, it's almost like they implemented a new offense and just weren't on the same page yet. It's like the kind of thing you see in practice when a guy's like just not getting his spot or something. But to see that in a game repeatedly was weird.
It was very much like you're watching a football game and the receiver runs the wrong route.
Mm-hmm. And the quarterback throws it to nobody.
Just anticipate it, yes.
And just to see that repeatedly was so surprising. And look, if we're not going to force turnovers, I will take the ones that they give us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you don't know, I mean, maybe they were expecting something different from the Billiken defense. I don't know what you could have expected.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know. It was just a wild situation. I think we were counting them in my section. Like it was like, that's 6. It was wild. I know we'll have people disagree with us on this point, but I think you and I talked about it during the game. I thought Hargrove brought decent minutes in this one. I think he's making plays in paint, in traffic, that he hasn't. Like he got us an easy basket. A really deflating play, like a deflating for SIU.
Yeah.
Like he got the pass from Yuri, saw an opening, and took it to the basket. And he took a shot that I was like, why are you shooting it like that? And it went in. I was like, I didn't understand why he shot it like that, but it worked out.
He also, we're watching the stretch of the game in the middle of the second half right now where SIU pulls to within 3. And he also just missed a 3 from the baseline air ball in this one.
And that's why I think
they pulled to within 2.
Did
I thought, yeah, 58-56 was as close as it got. So yeah, he it's really when you've got a guy who's limited minutes, people are going to come up with whatever narrative they want to about him. If you haven't been happy with Hargrove lately, you're going to point to them as 3. Mm-hmm. If you have liked his minutes, you're going to point to some of the things he did in this game that were a little unique. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
It always is.
Yeah, I think he was fine.
Also, I want to go back to Yuri because Yuri had he took some great charges in this one too.
He did.
He was fantastic. He stopped a few of their breaks, and it was a great all around game for him. I thought he had a complete game too, minus a couple turnovers. But how do you have a 3-1 turnover margin when you have 5 turnovers?
Oh.
You get
I think you need 15 assists.
Yeah, exactly. Are you worried about 3-point defense? I mean, Johnson. This was absurd.
Yeah, number 10, Johnson.
He was from Mason too, right? He was a transfer from Mason.
I think.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. 1 3-pointer all season, and then he rediscovers his shot in the first half against Lou. I think he had 4 in the first half.
It's like Dwayne Polk finding his shot.
We just saw him make the one in the second half that put SIU to within 2. I just think that we are scouting teams to say they don't shoot the 3 well, and we're giving up way too much on the perimeter. Yeah. We kind of saw this like in the Soderberg era, which is always going to be my frame of reference when he ran that pack defense. We were more aggressive with the pack line against good shooting teams, and we tightened it against worse shooting teams. And it's almost kind of like that sort of thing. Like when they have space and time to shoot, you realize like these are college basketball players, and some of them just haven't had good matchups yet or haven't found their shot yet. But if you're going to give it to them, every once in a while they're going to find it. Maryland did. Johnson on SIU did. It's a little frustrating, but so far it's worked for us more often than not.
Yeah, I think in this one, though, I think we kind of, said, hey, they're going to beat us from 3. That's how they're going to beat us. I don't recall a lot inside from SIU.
They when they came out, I was I had already looked at the matchup on paper, but they were a little smaller than I realized. Domask has some pretty good size for what he does, but otherwise, they're not a big physical team at all.
Yeah, I think that in this one was just us saying, hey, SIU is not big at all. They're not going to score inside. So we're just going to let them, if they're going to beat us, they're going to have to bomb 3s all game. And a couple of them did, and then they missed. And I thought the end of the game was more along the lines of about 5 minutes left. And SIU just totally bricked one off the back iron. And you're like, okay, that was their gasp. That's the deflating one. By the way, these college students look way younger than I remember. They actually moved some kids down to the student section. I mean, real young kids, like 7.
To fill it out.
Yeah. So, one really nice note from this game was seeing all of the Majerus-era players back for the Rick Majerus remembrance ceremony at halftime. It's been 10 years now since we lost Rick Majerus. Jet McCall, Remican, Eckerly, Cassidy, Rachel Becker Diener, I don't even know. Rachel, formerly Diener, now Becker. God bless her.
Yes.
She she was easily the unsung MVP of the Rick Majerus era.
Yeah.
He leaned heavily on his office assistant. His assistant, and that was her role.
Yeah.
And so she was big time. Videos were done by Kwame and Biancardi, and then there was some more that I didn't recognize. There was a guy with the Utah Jazz. I couldn't
Wouldn't
place
that
him.
be Jensen? Was that Alex Jensen?
Yes, it was
Yeah.
Al. Statues are kind of a meme at SLU. You have the acapella group, the Bare Naked Statues. Does Rick deserve a statue outside Chaffetz?
I have a really high threshold for things like this. Majerus was he was the right coach at the right time for us. He was a really good, an incredible coach who we saw some success under. But unless he was there for a longer time and had just a ton of success in that era, we still in that period didn't get out of the second round of the tournament. As much as I like and respect Majerus and everything that he did, and I'm really impressed with all of the players to come out of that era. A lot of who showed up for this, a lot of who we saw at Humphreys afterwards, have gone on to do really impressive things in and out of basketball. Multiple guys that named, with the title Doctor, and they're younger than me.
Dr.
Eckerly. Dr. Eckerly, Dr. Jones. Just a really impressive group. I love everything about that era, but yeah, I think a statue is a high bar. For me, it's only easy ad.
I do think that more can be done outside of Chaffetz, just to make it a little more regal, and inside too. Inside, absolutely, there is not enough done inside. It is barren, and I think that's for some reason being that they host a lot of concerts,
a lot of other events.
Yeah, but I would like. But the problem is, even if you're hosting other events, you can still have, if you have Billikens stuff out there, like now you've got people, that are seeing Billiken stuff and learning about the program, just walking by a statue or a photo or a trophy or anything like that. It still blows my mind that the Billiken Hall of Fame is in a section that you don't know is there unless you actually go look for it. Next up, Tuesday the 6th, the Billikens will be at Iona. This is the return game of last year's game.
Yep.
It was a fun game last year. It should be a fun one again.
Yep.
And we have a little preview for you that we recorded with the Iona Hoops podcast.
Yeah, it was a nice segment. We got to sit down, get into the nitty gritty. We went on each other's shows, got to learn more about Iona. I think this is a really important test for us, with Iona being kind of a top 100 team. It's a road game. It's kind of like some of the A10 gyms we go into that's a little bit smaller. So to me, the way that I look at this game is like we're basically getting an A10 top third road test at this point in the season, and I think it's going to be a really good barometer of where we are.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I think it's a huge test, and it's a road game, and we have an interview with Guy Falotico, and we're going to play it right now. All right, Billiken fans, a little inside baseball. We're actually recording this interview way ahead of time just because that's how the schedule works. And we've got Guy Falotico, IonaHoops.com. Apparently, it's a haven for Iona University basketball fans. It's nobillikens.com. I'll say that. But welcome to the show, Guy. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to our game.
I really like this series. I just love the history of it. It's almost one of those things where it happens in such a quirky, weird way. And then like 25, 30 years later, it's become like an actual rivalry and nobody remembers how this series started. Just kind of from your recollection, how did this all come about?
Well, last December, Iona was supposed to play Seton Hall at Madison Square Garden. COVID, of course, was still running a little rampant at the time. So Seton Hall, I think most of their roster got COVID, so the game was canceled. By the way, we're still, I don't think they're ever going to give us that game back, but that's another argument for another day. So we were just trying to find a game, and even just, my people from Iona who were talking to me about it were, hey, we're talking to Xavier, we're talking to these guys, talking to those guys. Nothing ever materialized. I kept thinking we're never going to get this game back. How terrible. We're trying to build a potential at-large resume. And so all of a sudden, here you guys were, very similar, Ken Palm and net ratings I think we had last year. It's a road game, great opportunity for us to jump up a few points. Perfect. This sounds great. And what, you're going to return the game the following year? Excellent. Let's do that. I like that. So to your point, yeah, I mean, this would be cool, and this is a great thing that the coaches are so close to each other, where both of these programs are going to stay good for a while, but we'll be good as long as Patino was, we were good before Patino got here. So why not keep this going? If you get a top 100 team to play you every year and you have that locked in, that's a great thing to have.
Yeah, I think it's good for recruiting and alumni too. I think especially on the St. Louis side, I'm sure there are Billiken alumni up in the New York area that would love to get a shot every year. Obviously, we have the A10 tournament in Brooklyn, but with everything that happens with conferences, who knows how long we'll have Brooklyn. So what was kind of the reaction from Iona fans? Were they excited about this matchup? Were they nervous, confident?
I thought the Iona fans felt like we had a good chance to win. I mean, you're playing a team we were generally pretty equal, but it was at your place. We really didn't play a lot of road games. Patino's not a huge fan of road games in general, and even in non-conference. He likes to play neutral site games more than anything else. Most of our non-conference schedule the past 2 years, neutral site games. Occasional home game here and there, but not much. And even this year, road games, we played at Hofstra, second game of the year. We're playing at New Mexico. That's it. That's non-conference road schedule. I love the opportunity to play in the road. I think it's great to get that experience, to have a crowd against you, and not playing in an empty arena somewhere. And I think the team actually was hurt a little bit by that last year, not playing enough in that atmosphere, because then we lost a couple of games to weaker MAC teams on the road. And how do you prepare for that? You play more road games. So
yeah, so and this game for us, this road game, it's a good test for the A10, because we do play in some, we play in the Northeast a lot, we play in smaller arenas a lot. But I'm curious about personnel, because we know Iona has a little bit different roster than they did last season. So who should we be looking at this season who's going to kind of be that leader for Iona?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out. We're recording this a few days in advance. Last night we played Santa Clara out in Vegas. It was, Santa Clara is a top 100 team. And game was toe to toe. We were up by 1 with about 3 minutes ago, and then we faded. And that's where you want your leaders to step up. And we didn't have that. Our leader probably is Quinn Slazinski. He is a senior power forward. He's been out the last couple of games with a high ankle sprain. I'm not sure when he's coming back. And we missed him last night. He's our leading scorer, leading rebounder, and you can see the difference when he's not out there. So if you want to talk about a leader, he's probably the one that you guys might remember the most from last year. We lost our starting backcourt, replaced him with a junior college point guard named Dennis Jenkins, who was, I think, number 3 rated JUCO player in the country. And he's with us now, which is fantastic. And he's our second leading scorer right now. The other starting guard is Walter Clayton Jr., who was a freshman last year. So he's still trying to grow into that role, but again, he's somebody who's averaging 14.5 points a game. You guys might remember our center, Nelly Jr. Joseph. He's back. He kind of comes and goes. I don't remember exactly how he performed last year against you guys. Sometimes when his energy level is there, he is an all-world center. Other times he just kind of fades into the background. So not know what you're going to get from him from night to night. So those are the guys that are back from last year that you would remember in terms of Quinn and Walter Clayton and Nelly Jr. Joseph.
He played 30 minutes last year. He was 3 for 10 from the field, 4 for 6 from the line. So he finished with 10 and 6, but he did have 4 blocks. I do remember us kind of struggling at the rim against him a little bit.
Yeah, he's not one of those high energy guys. He's one of those guys at NBA Africa, just kind of very mellow. Just I'm gonna go out and play basketball. Not somebody. He's one of those guys you want to grab by the shoulder, say, just go get pissed off and go do something, And he's just not that kind of kid. And he needs to find a mean streak, and hopefully he can find it in time for when you guys come in. So.
Is there anybody in last year's game that may have not shown us anything that's on this year's team that has stepped up?
Beric Jean-Louis is he's a senior wing. Not much of a scorer, but one of the best defensive players in our league. This year he's kind of added some offense. He's actually 5 of 10 from 3. He's shoots 67% from the field, averaging 12.5. He's not a scorer, and he's averaging 12.5 points. So he's just been more active, a little more aggressive than in the past. But Patino actually, as the year went on last year, started to go with a 3-guard look, putting in Walter Clayton instead of Beric. And I actually kind of feel like that was some of the contributing factor to the way we ended the season in disappointment. I think we became maybe a little more efficient on offense, but the defensive integrity was lost. With Beric on the floor, we're just a different type of team. His plus minus ratings is one of those that's always going to be higher because he's always on the other team's best player. So he's the one guy that I'd say that you may remember him being out there last year. He probably didn't do much other than maybe guard Yuri or somebody on occasion. And then, but now you'll see, oh, who's this guy? All of a sudden he's making threes. So that's the one guy I would say to watch.
He fouled out in 15 minutes last year without scoring.
Yeah, there you go.
But he did get one steal. So,
and a few rebounds. Yeah.
I got a question because I'm looking back at this box score and I'm sorry, I just do not remember the specifics of games. I don't. But you guys shot 18.2% from 3 in this game and 35.5% from the field. 18.2%, is that something that was normal last year, and not necessarily the percentage, but struggling from 3 last year? And then this year, has it either improved in any way from, where it was last year or where it was in this game?
We, as a team, did not shoot as well away from home from 3 last year. I think our overall percentage last year was probably around 33%. This year it is, just double checking, more like 34. So we're definitely shooting a little better. We're probably a better offensive team this year than we were last year. I don't know if we're as good defensively yet. And that's something that I know is haunting Patino in his sleep, because that's all he cares about is the defense.
What would you say the root cause of the struggles on defense are for Iona?
A lot of new bodies. I think that's a lot of it. I think learning Patino's system. One thing we're doing probably more of than in the past is pressing a bit more. Patino likes to turn a game into havoc. Just wants you to throw a ball all over the place. It's one of the things we are doing well. If you look at our Ken Palm numbers, we're not tremendous in defensive efficiency, but if you look at the turnover rates that we cause and the non-steal turnovers, numbers like that, we're among the nation, and block shots. So if you get the shot off against us, you make it, but you have to get the shot off against us without throwing the ball away or getting blocked. That's kind of the way it is. And that's not what it was last year. Last year, we actually had you to a lower field goal percentage too. And right now, we're not stopping teams from making shots that well.
It kind of worries me a little bit. SLU has struggled against pressure a little bit this season. And one thing that has been stark this year is we're not forcing turnovers at all. I think teams are averaging maybe 10 turnovers against us.
Yeah.
Just not forcing them at all. So that's definitely something to look out for. But as you're looking at the rosters, is there, SLU's roster next to Iona's, is there a matchup in particular that you're looking forward to, or that Iona fans might be looking at?
I always like to see who Beric is going to be on, because usually he is on the other team's best player, and Patino's big approach is he indicates that one guy that he feels like he has to totally disrupt. For you guys, it's going to be Yuri. Now, whether, again, we like you said, Beric might have been on him in the first half, had a couple of quick fouls, and that was the end of that. I don't know. I don't remember. But for him to foul it out of a game, I'm sure he was on him at some point. Probably try him again. He's the one guy I think that might disrupt your offensive flow in that regard. So that's the matchup that's the thing to watch. Who 0-0 is on. That's who Pitino wants to take out of the game.
You mentioned that this team has a few returners that are very impactful. But you also mentioned a lot of new bodies. This team feels kind of young, just from kind of doing a look at down the roster. A few seniors, but a lot of sophomores and freshmen. Is that accurate, or am I off?
No, it's accurate. Pitino went to the portal a lot at the beginning, and this year he brought in more freshmen. And Dennis Dennis Jenkins is a JUCO, so he's not as many seniors on this year's roster. But again, you assume seniors are what's going to lead you to the promised land, and last year it didn't for us. So maybe that was, I think he just wants more talent. And even if it's a freshman, I'll give you an example. This kid, Cruz Davis, is just starting to scratch the surface a little bit. His numbers are nothing to look at really right now, but you can see when he's out there, he's one of those kids that got like a long arms, like 9 feet arms that just disrupt passes. And, Pitino, the stat Pitino loves, you guys know, if you follow him, deflections. And he's one of those guys that deflects all the time. So he's one of those kids. He actually drew the starting job when Quinn Slazinski went out with his injury. So he's going to a freshman in place of a senior. So yeah, we're definitely on the young side right now. And again, in a situation like last night's game against Santa Clara, I mean, this was a game that was toe to toe for 37 minutes, and then we just wilted. So that's what worries me. You talk about what worries you guys about going in an atmosphere like New Rochelle. What worries me, if it's a 1-point game and a minute to go, do we have somebody who's going to be able to step up and make that play, especially with the assumption that Quinn Slazinski is not playing for us?
So let's circle back to that atmosphere then. We talked about this a little bit going into it, and I mentioned this might be a good test in terms of some of the A-10 facilities that we play in. But what is the atmosphere like in the Heinz Athletic Center, and what can SLU expect playing in that gym?
It's something that's in the works. It's we did sell out our opening home game against Penn. And we kind of buzzsawed them pretty good. As a result, I think the energy students bring is always just changes the dynamic. I think before there was an actual effort to get the students there, all you had were a bunch of senior citizens sitting there, and we're just waiting for something to happen, where the kids want to bring the level up and the noise up and cause as much chaos as they can, with just disrupting the other team's thinking and everything else. So, again, we're talking about a game we each have games before we get to that one. Iona has 2 MAC games at home leading into this one. So we have 3 straight home games coming up over a 5-day span. 5 days. Yeah. So we have to maintain our focus, be able to handle these other teams in the MAC that are projected to be in the lower half of the league. You would think we'd be okay. You never know, but at home, especially. And then you need to get to that point where we're ready to take care of, business and really focus on St. Louis. I'm hoping that the students are there for all 3 and not waiting for the St. Louis game, because then all of a sudden you play a bad, horrible game and you lose to Canisius, and then nobody's going to show up for St. Louis then. So it's like, well, we're not going to beat them. We couldn't even beat Canisius. So yeah, you have to keep the momentum going to have them keep coming. It's hard. It's impossible to build.
Sitting here listening to you is so intriguing for me, and I don't know how intriguing it is for anybody else that's a Billiken fan, but listening to you talk about like getting the students out and senior citizens sitting on their hands, like Peter, is he not talking about being a Billiken fan, right?
Yeah, I mean, no matter what you think of your program, I mean, the echoes throughout college basketball. I think a lot of our programs are facing pretty similar situations.
Yeah, I'm curious to know what has been the evolution of the Iona Hoops basketball fan, because I think SLU is just starting to skew younger. It just seems like more and more young people are getting into it now. A lot of that comes from the graduates that were here from Majerus that are starting to have, kids and income, disposable income that they can spend on tickets. Much like pro wrestling fans, age range that's starting to happen now. But what is the Iona fan base been like the last 10 years? How has it evolved?
It's been uneven. Students are, it's not like when, and I'm an old guy. I graduated from Iona in 91. Even then we had ESPN and we can go sit home and watch Duke, North Carolina instead of going to an Iona game if we wanted. And I think that there's so much to do, especially being in a suburb of New York City, that to just get some kid to come out of the dorm and go to the basketball game that's 20 feet away is a lot to ask sometimes, even if they're just casual fans. So thankfully a name like Pitino is a household name, and it's like, wow, we have Rick Pitino as our coach. How's that possible? So I do think we're starting to see that build up. I know our season tickets are at the highest level they've been in years, and this is going on for the 2010s. I don't know how closely you followed us. We had a guy named Tim Cluess coaching us during that time. We won a whole bunch of MAC titles during that time. We won into the NCAAs 7 times in 10 years under him, or something like that, and yet it never built into anything more. And only now with Pitino, you hear some of that. You're seeing more donors giving money. You're hearing rumblings like, oh, I think Iona should make a move to Atlantic 10. Now's the time to do it. Pitino's here. And I keep saying, yeah, but you realize it's not just basketball. It's all the other sports too. And then what happens when Pitino leaves? Can we sustain that? Or are we going to become Fordham? So, it's just such a crazy approach. But those are the thought processes now, is like people are thinking bigger because of Pitino, even if St. Peter's is the MAC team that's actually doing it.
Right.
It's interesting because you talk about, again, I swear to God, he's talking about, if he subbed out Atlantic 10 for Big East, he's a Billiken fan, right? So what is your feeling on Iona trying to move up to the A10? Because I got to be honest, like I have a list of like 2 or 3 other teams, and I think Iona's on that list, but I think they're after maybe Belmont, mostly for selfish Midwestern reasons. But what do you feel about the talk that Iona should try to make a jump to the A10? Because I think you guys would be welcome, culturally speaking.
Yeah, to me, it's a financial jump. It's a pretty big difference. I'd have to look at the numbers, but if we were to move the A10 now, we'd be at or near the bottom in terms of overall athletic budget, maybe not even basketball. The basketball program itself, as long as Rick stays, will be fine. And then, of course, the hire we'd make after him would be crucial. Otherwise, again, you become Fordham, you become LaSalle, which are, again, former MAC schools that are now dwelling in the lower half of the league almost every year. So I don't think anybody wants us to become that. So I've been hesitant to say, yeah, we should do it. You have to elevate all your sports. You can't just say, well, basketball can go. It's all right. The rest of the teams suck. You can't do that. So, that said, if you're going to make a jump from the MAC to the Atlantic 10, you have to do it when Rick Pitino is here. And it might be the way to keep him. So there was some buzz about a week or two ago where there's been talk, when Pitino was finally exonerated for everything at Louisville. I was the one on the press conference that everybody started picking up his response to. So now that you're free of all of that, are you going to be leaving Iona? Are you out of here after this year? And he didn't say yes and he didn't say no. So it's it's a chance he can leave after this year. And people have asked about a lifetime contract for him. And my understanding is that Iona, he can stay at Iona as long as he wants. He doesn't have the lifetime contract in his hand yet, but that's what he has been told. You can stay as long as you want. How else would you make that sweet for him, but to make a commitment saying, we're going to put this much more money into the league and go to the Atlantic 10?
Never works when you give a house guest the keys to the condo.
Yes. He's running our athletic office. He is in charge without question. So curious to see where it all leads, but there have been rumblings, but I haven't seen anything materialize.
So it sounds like you and the fans are on board with him now as the guy leading the program. I'm wondering, how did everybody feel about him initially, like coming in? Because there was the scandal hanging over his head and some stuff in his past, and Iona being Catholic school, small school, there's definitely a very specific culture there. How did it, how was that feeling, the initial reception anyway?
It was mixed, and not just because of him, but because Tim Cluess, lead assistant, was Jared Grasso, who's now at Bryant and has turned Bryant from a 3-win team to a darling, although now they just took out Syracuse the other day, So Grasso wanted the job. He wanted the Iona job, and it was between Pitino and Grasso. And there's a definite faction of Iona fans that wanted Grasso to get the job and not Pitino, probably for the reasons you're stating more than anything.
Grasso has the potential though to go down Pitino territory.
Well, that not only that, but
he has that vibe.
Well, not only that, but okay, he comes here. Let's say we get to the NCAAs with him. We win a game. He's going to move up too, and then we're right back where we started, and then we lost out on Pitino. Yeah. So to me, this is the year 3 of Pitino. Granted, we had COVID messing up the first 2. Mm-hmm. If we get 3 years out of him, that's great. His original contract was 5. I'd love for him to see the 5. The buyout was always a way to keep him here. It was $10 million in the first year. I think it was 7 in the second, and I think it's 5 now. But then I heard somebody else say that there is no more buyout. So I don't know why would it just go away? Would a contract just change like that? So he could go. Now, a funny thing has happened that could lead to something else. You guys, I don't know if you saw what happened with Manhattan College recently. So their coach, Steve Mazziello, who is a Pitino disciple, he's won a couple of MAC championships at Manhattan. He's a good coach, not a great coach, but a good coach. Basically went in, this is his contract year, went into Manhattan, said, hey, they were picked 2nd in the MAC. I have a good team, let's talk extension. And they're like, nah, not yet. And he's like, well, what do you mean not yet? And then I think there was an exchange of words and he was out the door.
Yeah.
Then we're at the Penn game to open the season. Who's sitting behind Pitino but Mazziello? And I'm like, all right, then what's that all about? He's volunteering to help out. And that's the understanding. Iona doesn't have a spot on their staff for him officially, but so he's helping out the team right now. And my feeling is that's obviously going to be something that they might transition to whenever Pitino does leave. So we'll see.
Again, it's interesting. I really like the reasons that Iona went with Pitino over Grasso. Same kind of reasons SLU went with Rick Majerus over whoever else. I mean, Rick Majerus unfortunately ended up dying, but like he wasn't going to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. He had his mom to take care of in Wisconsin. So it's unbelievable how much I can literally take everything you're saying and plug it up a little bit. Just turn it up a little bit and be like, yeah, this sounds like Billiken fans. So it's been great to have you on the show. Please let our listeners know where they can find your work.
Well, I am Iona Guy F on Twitter. I live tweet every Iona game, so whether I'm actually physically there or not. Yes, I did tweet from 12 midnight to 2 a.m. last night to myself, basically, I think, during our Santa Clara game. But then the message board for Iona fans is IonaHoops.com. I've actually run that since 1997. Yes, I'm old.
Oh God, we got to get him and SLU Sign Guy on a show together. Good Lord.
And then the podcast is in its 3rd year, so it's fairly new. So and that you'll find links for the podcast either through my Twitter account or on the message board. So
awesome, Guy. Thank you so much for joining the Midtown Madness podcast. Billiken fans, that's Guy Falotico. Thank you again. And
thanks a lot.
And best of luck up until December 7th.
Yeah. It's a couple weeks out. Or not a couple weeks, a couple games out. Let's hope we, again, are both unscathed. And that game's got a lot more juice then, huh? So let's see what happens. Thanks for having me on.
Yep. Take it easy.
Thanks, Guy.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. All right. Thanks again to Guy Falotico for chatting with us. We're going to look at Boise State now. And this is another game from last year that was really fun.
It was.
It was fun in some way. It was. I mean, every game is fun, but every game is also miserable.
This is also the return game.
Yes.
We went out there last year. This is one I was nervous about. They were a senior-laden team last year with high expectations, and they had kind of underperformed in the non-conference. We were one of the reasons why, because we went out there and got the win. And it was during a stretch of games where we were giving up a lot of leads at home, losing to teams kind of in a similar level, Belmont, UAB, even Auburn, a much better team, where we had given up double-digit leads at home. This was another one, I think the lead shrunk a little bit down the stretch, but we held on in this one. Boise State's good again, but I think they were probably better last year. It just took them a little time last year to kind of find their legs.
Yeah, they have wins against Washington State, Loyola, Colorado, Utah Valley, and Cal State Northridge, the Toreros of Cal State Northridge.
And I'm seeing that we didn't update in the notes what they did against Texas A&M and Eastern Oregon. I'm going to assume Texas A&M was a loss, and that Eastern Oregon, lower division. I mean,
the vowel capital of the NCAA.
So I'm actually wrong here.
Wow. They beat Texas A&M?
They beat Texas A&M by 15 in Fort Worth. So it was a neutral game. I think Texas A&M might be one of they were ranked. I think they might not quite.
They might be the antithesis of Maryland,
where everybody thought Maryland was a mid to low tier Big Ten team, and they're actually awesome.
Yeah, they're great.
Texas A&M was a ranked team to start the season, and now they've had a few losses in a row. I take it back. They also have a win against Texas A&M, which I would say is Washington State, Loyola, Colorado. Those are all good wins. Eastern Oregon, they haven't played yet, actually, but they will by the time that we play them. Boise State, it looks pretty good.
That steaming pile we laid against Maryland is starting to sprout little flowers.
It's maybe not as stinky as we thought it was.
They're an excellent defensive team, Pete.
I think everything for this team goes through the defense. Holding Texas A&M in Texas to 71, putting 86 on them is pretty impressive. But prior to that's really their defense is really how they got a lot of those other wins. Offensively, their number one guy is Marcus Shaver.
Remember that name?
We remember him from last year. A lot of everything kind of goes through him on offense. He's a he can really fill it up. And then the other guy who they return who's a pretty good scorer is Tyson Degenhart. I remember you cringing at his name last year.
I hate him so much. I hate everything about him. I hate his hair. I hate his stupid name. I hate him.
Yeah, he's just that dude. That hopefully the students pick up on as one to harass.
He's the Jimerson, the Ellis, the guy that it's the white guy. I mean, let's not mince words here.
Fans pick the hateable white dude.
Yes,
I guess
it's the So let's go around the A10, Pete. It was a mixed bag this week.
I think it's been kind of a mixed bag all season for the A10.
UMass 73, South Florida 67. UMass, they're trying to get a hype train going. West Pine Bills tried to throw a little cold water on that.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be decent. I mean, you can't count out Frank Martin.
Yeah.
Anywhere. So, but I think they're fine. But again, cold water on the hype train. Duquesne beat UC Santa Barbara 72-61. Charlotte Davidson 68-66 in OT. Just a weird game.
Davidson had the lead by 1. Charlotte had the ball in the closing seconds. It was a wild sequence that really resulted because Davidson couldn't get the rebound. Charlotte missed a free throw, got the offensive rebound, kicked it out, missed a 3. There's a crazy scramble for the ball that bounces out to the wing. The guy who just missed the 3 before then picks it up and hits a 3 as time expires to win it. It was madness and kind of not quite a crosstown rivalry because Dayton's about a half hour out of Charlotte, but a local rivalry.
Davidson, by the way.
Davidson.
Yes.
Is
think the Jimerson scramble 3 against Dayton.
Yeah.
Speaking of Dayton.
Yeah.
Wednesday the 30th, Temple beat LaSalle 67-51 in a bit. That's a big 5 game. Big 5 game.
Big 5, yeah.
Yeah.
At the Palestra.
Toledo 90, Richmond 67. Tough stretch this week for Richmond. We'll get into that. We got more on Richmond. St. Bonaventure 71, Middle Tennessee 64. Bonaventure really had a mixed bag this week. Dayton 67, a really bad Western Michigan team 47. I believe Sully said, thank God Western Michigan sucks.
Yeah.
VCU 70, Vanderbilt 65. They're also struggling with injuries as well without Ace. Is it Ace Ball? Is he still there?
Yeah.
Okay. George Mason 81, Hofstra 77 in OT. Fordham 72, Maine 67. Fordham's put up some decent wins for Fordham.
This was also a game that they were down most of it.
That shows a lot of cojones.
Good Fordham win.
Loyola 85, Central Arkansas 70, St. Joe's 85, Penn 80. I believe that's another Big 5 game.
Also at the Palestra, kind of a doubleheader.
GW 79, South Carolina 55. South Carolina, man, been bad.
Yeah, but good win for GW.
Who's coaching there now? Does anyone know?
Nobody's
coaching there?
Nobody, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
They fired Frank Martin and haven't hired a
Yeah, UMass 71, Harvard 68. This was I don't want to call it a fun game because I hate UMass, but like it was an entertaining game.
It's a good win.
Fordham 95, Tulane 90.
That's a fun game.
Wow. Points. Yes, points.
Yes. No defense.
Temple 83, VCU 73. Fairleigh Dickinson 97, St. Joe's 80. Man.
Wow.
Delaware 69, nice. Davidson 67. Again, a mixed bag out of Davidson.
Yeah.
I think the season in general has been a mixed bag for the A10.
Yeah.
You had let's see, hold on, where am I at? GMU, George Mason 80, Toledo 73, Duquesne 78, Ball State 77. Way too close to against a Ball State team.
I mean, Duquesne, though, they were supposed to be in the basement of the A10 this year, and they've been really good.
Yes. Dayton beat that team that likes to think they're an SLU.
Yeah, they had a little.
That's the only win they'll have against an SLU this year.
I hope so.
Yes.
Southeastern Louisiana had a little road
CELA.
They played at Xavier, and then they played at Dayton, so, getting beat up in southwestern Ohio.
What is the story of your life? LaSalle 84, Penn 81, another Big 5. Buffalo 83, St. Bonaventure 66.
Buffalo's good, one of the better teams in the MAC in recent years. Bonaventure has just been really up and down this year.
That's the BFE, Nowheresville, New York derby.
Yeah, well, they also played Canisius,
I have no idea
which I think is up there too.
Somewhere. That might be in Canada. DePaul 78, Loyola 72, Providence 88. URI 74. What is Richmond doing here?
Yeah.
William and Mary. If you have an ampersand in the name, you can't lose to them. You can't lose to an ampersand.
I think, isn't William and Mary the first public university? Or wait, was it the first university in the United States? It's something like that. They're one of a very traditional. School.
We'll call this the original 13 colonies matchup.
Yeah, right.
58-57 over Richmond.
Richmond doesn't seem to be very good.
Boy, are they putting up billboards in Richmond yet?
Fire Mooney Mafia.
I mean, they just went to the NCAA tournament, and after you lose to William and Mary, you put up a billboard.
Yeah.
That's if
they're probably going to win the conference tournament this year, though.
Yes, they will. They will go to the Final Four. They'll go to the Final Four. Let's talk a little trivia, but I do want to talk about salsa because I'm still I'm still on my mouth is still on fire from the salsa last night. But you could probably cool it down with some pickles.
You probably could. And the good news for you, if you like to support local, and we know Two Men and a Garden are all about supporting local, I noticed this weekend when I was shopping at the Wine and Cheese place, they've got 5 locations around the city, including one now in South City called Spirit Wine, I think.
Is that the same as like Spirit Halloween?
It's not quite Spirit Halloween. There's a little more.
It shows up once a year.
A little more for me in this.
Then it's a Discovery Zone or something. Right. The rest, yeah.
But no, Two Men and a Garden is on. They do sell their products at every Wine and Cheese place location, including Spirit in South City. It's at Chippewa, just a block off of Hampton. And that is good news for me because it's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I don't need to make a separate trip because I'm already, every time I'm back in St. Louis, I go to Wine and Cheese place at, either in Clayton or this one at least once. And I don't have to make a trip to a grocery store to go get some Two Men and a Garden stuff. I can get it all in one place. So just a little tip for you right there. If you like to support local producers, local stores, you can't do better than that combination right there. And you can also pick up their stuff online at twomeninthegarden.com.
I mentioned on the show last week that I loved this trivia question because I had a good time. It was like playing Sporkle.
Yeah.
And we'll go through the answer to this question. Go ahead and read the question, and then we'll get into it.
So with the signing of Bruce Zhang, China becomes the 15th, assuming he plays next season as planned and everything, China would become the 15th foreign country represented on SLU's all-time roster. The question is, what are the other 14? The hint we gave is that all of these but one had produced a SLU player since the year 2000. So you kind of had to brainstorm recent rosters and think about, where guys were coming from.
Go ahead and name the country, and then I'll go ahead and name the players.
Okay, first one's Australia.
It was Andrew Latimer was first. Salicic was second, technically.
Okay.
And then Ellis was third.
Yeah.
Canada.
Grandy Glaze and Matt Neufeld.
Do we... Yeah. God love OnlyFans.
Germany.
Martin Linson. Ghana.
Was Reggie Agbeko, and some people pushed back on this one a little bit because he did go to high school in Buffalo, and then he went to prep school in Connecticut for a year. But
place of birth.
I don't think, but place of birth. But not only that, it's not like he was born there and then just grew up in Buffalo. He came over when he was like 14 or 15. So I think 15. At which point I gotta say, he's from Ghana.
You mean like famed St. Louis hip hop artist Akon?
Exactly.
Yes. Greece. Go ahead in order.
So was Emmanuel first? No, in order. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're backwards here. So Paul Nandas.
Who you had no idea who that was.
I could completely forgotten about him, and some people kind of reminded. You remembered him, and then we got some other reminders online. Ian Vujukis, who I knew, we overlapped at SLU. Emmanuel Salantakis, and then Marcos Samidis. So Greece is actually the most represented foreign country. Off the top of my head, I would have guessed Australia or Canada, but I forgot we only had 2 Canadians. And next was Iceland.
Yngvi Gudmundsson, who played 1 year, not even 1 year, but he did step on the court.
I want to say if one of those long threes went in, he would have stayed.
Well, that was, speaking of he would have stayed, I was talking with Cassidy last night, Kyle Cassidy. He said if Femi John wouldn't have gotten injured, Cassidy would have had to transfer. He's like, I'd have to get out of here. Israel.
Isaac Ohanan, who was in my class of 2005 at SLU, was there for 3 seasons.
Great story from Anthony Drea about Isaac Ohanan being completely baffled that Drea could dunk. Great story. One of my favorites.
Isaac, and you knew he was really from Israel because we played our home games at, what is now the Enterprise Center downtown over, the panels that they put over the ice for the Blues. He would have to put like a hoodie under his practice jersey during shoot-arounds because he was so cold in that arena. He hated it so much. Okay, next up we've got the Ivory Coast.
The dance man himself, Lassina Traore.
Yeah. Briefly at SLU, just like the next one, who's from Mali.
Mali, yes.
Yeah, Madani for short.
Yes.
It looks like Diarra, but he says it a little more like Jada. Next is New Zealand.
Rob Lowe.
Yeah.
Not that Rob Lowe.
No, but that's for getting one player from a country. That's a pretty high success rate for New Zealand. We got to go back there.
Nigeria.
Francis Okoro,
yes,
who's playing for us right now. That's an easy one. As is Senegal.
Momo Cisse.
Yes, hope to see a lot more of him.
Spain. This one was the one that tripped everybody up.
Spain was the
except
toughest.
for Joel Hall.
Spain was the toughest to get because it was the one that was pre-2000. And that was Eduardo Garcia, who I think only played for one season, 91, 92, something like that. Yeah. And then last but not least, we have Sweden.
Andre Lorentzen.
Yeah, who's at Toledo now.
Yeah, again, well done to Joel Hall. First to get all 14. And I have no doubt he knew that off the top of his head.
Yeah. We said honor system, and he's a living history book.
For the purposes of this week's question, I want to be clear. We're specifically talking about basketball and father-to-son legacies. Larry Hughes Jr. is obviously the most recent Billiken basketball legacy, something we haven't had much of. Prior to the Hughes legacy, what was the last father-son duo to both step on the court for the Billikens?
Yeah, this is a good question.
Yes.
I like this one. It actually came up in conversation with a friend of mine at the game, two friends of mine at the game yesterday. That's not a good hint.
No.
Because unless you were in that conversation with me, and only two people were, you're not going to know it.
Okay, now leave me alone for a minute. All right, Billiken fans, we're going to talk a little women's basketball now. Pete, there's an expected result here this week and an unexpected, I would say, stunning result this week.
Is stunning the right word?
I think you know what? Colin Surrey texted me after the game.
Yeah.
He said this game was this was a huge result for this team.
Great.
But first, we're going to talk about an 82-52 loss at Mizzou on Wednesday, November 30th. Tough first half in this one.
Yeah, SLU was held to just 19 points. We get good McMakin, we get bad McMakin. She was 3 of 14.
I just want average McMakin.
Just consistent.
Consistent McMakin.
Yeah, so she wound up. She still winds up with 10. She always winds up with double digits, but 3 of 14. Nick Castro, the freshman, started in this one, but she struggled.
There was call for her on surprisingly.
Yeah.
I can't remember a time on Billikens.com where there was like, hey, why isn't this person starting? Talking about women's basketball.
Yeah.
I think the World Cup has got people a little, because nobody ever's like, why isn't this person starting? Because we're so used to talking about like Majerus back in the day. We're starting is for high school.
Sure.
But again, Nicastro wasn't getting minutes, and people were like, why isn't Nicastro getting minutes? Give Nicastro some minutes.
Well, we also have a new coach who's still trying to figure out her rotation, her lineups.
Yes.
And as we'll see in these two games, you see a lot of different looks. So she wasn't the only one though. Flowers, she only finished with 3 and 5. She had 3 blocks. She did pass the 1,000 rebound mark, so she now owns that record, all-time record outright. We talked about her tying Lampy with 1,000 before, and now it's her record. So she's just going to build on blocks and rebounds. That's fun to see. Really, the only other bright spots beside the record, Bree Johns and Peyton Kennedy were pretty solid off the bench. Always good when your starters are being held to such a poor scoring night to get at least a little help there if I'm looking for bright spots.
Yeah, SLU was 9 of 27 from 3. Their best shooting performance in a while.
Yeah.
I like this one. I liked this one almost more than I like their 50% shoot. Because this tells me it's like an average. I literally want average from this team. Because when they play, it's like when I want Papa John's. It's decidingly average. And that's all I'm. It's consistent.
Yeah.
It's not average. I'm sorry. I'm using average interchangeably with consistent. Papa
Sure.
John's is never terrible.
Yeah.
You're never going to get terrible pizza from Papa John's.
But if they shoot 33% from 3, they can win some games.
Yes.
Because
yes.
too often from this team, we've seen nights where they're like 2 of 15 or 4 of 21 or something like that. So just to get to a spot where you can at least be competitive. Now, granted, it happened in a game that you're getting blown out. It's a much better team. Mizzou's a very good women's team. But if you can shoot like that in some of these other games, it actually may have been the difference between a win and a loss in a few of them.
Again, just consistency is what we're looking for going forward. 19 of 55 from the field.
Not great.
So this is like getting like Little Caesars.
Yeah.
This is Little Caesars.
That's 34.5%, so it's just about what they shot from 3.
Just shoot threes.
Yeah.
Just shoot threes. 22 turnovers, 14 of 27 from 3 from the Mizzou side.
Yeah,
then
they were hot.
But the stunning result is a 75-65 home win yesterday, Saturday the 3rd, against Illinois State, a team that last year they would have, they struggled with last year.
Yeah.
4 Billikens in double figures. And again, this is a wild result considering the recent string of results. I mean, we just talked about Mizzou. you've got Kennedy with 10, Flowers with 14, McMakin with 22, Martinez with 20.
Yeah.
Martinez getting in the scoring column is huge.
Huge. And she played 33 minutes.
Yes.
Just a really nice performance. Also, what I like here.
Say it.
The free throw shoot.
No. The turnovers.
Oh, yeah.
She had one turnover. I mean, it's that's the one thing. I think scoring and turnovers were kind of the knock on Martinez. And Martinez is a great passer.
Yeah.
But the turnover margin in this one, the Billikens, they only turned it over. They turned it over 17 times. Not great, but when you shoot the way you do in this one, it helps. I mean, McMakin 4 of 10 again.
Yeah, from 3.
Papa John's.
And then the team was perfect from the free throw line.
Yes,
that's the
18 of 18, and that is going to close you out games.
Yes.
10 out of 10 times, 18 out of 18 times.
Yeah,
it'll close you out games. So huge win for the women there. Next up, they'll be at Ball State on the 5th, and then Wichita State on the 8th, and that'll be at home. Mm-hmm. They've got a really heavy slate coming up because they then go to Memphis on the 10th. How many times have we talked about Memphis on this podcast?
I know.
I'm so
like, do they have to play?
Sick of it.
Just trade them out for somebody else.
Yeah, Vanderbilt.
Sure.
Another Tennessee school.
Anybody.
Yeah, another 3-game week. Again, Tillett she's got her reasons, I'm sure. But this is a grueling ass schedule.
It's not just the strength of schedule that jumped out to us when we were looking at this preseason. But now that you're actually in it, I think this is the 3rd or 4th week already where they've played 3 games. I think it's the 4th time they've played 3 games in a week. That's a heavy load. They're going to get a little relief coming up here. As you get into finals, you get into the holidays, they're going to have some longer stretches. But man, oh man, what a non-conference gauntlet.
Unbelievable. Quick swimming and diving note, Pete.
Toyota U.S. Open Championships are the 29th through the December 3rd. I guess that's this weekend in Greensboro, North Carolina.
So I want to finish the episode before I get into my spiel. I think we owe Lyndsey Heckel a small apology. We do this once a year. Right. Pretty much. We do in person, me and you, once a year.
So far, yeah.
And the technology is not great.
No, we need to rent a studio.
You know what? Hold on, Pete, one sec. I'm going to do something real quick. Well, Pete, anything before we head out? Before you get back on the road, have a safe trip home?
I'll be back in a couple weeks.
Okay.
I'm going to take in the SIU game, I think, is the one that week.
We may have to do less.
We may have to do less.
Like less things before and after the game.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a little different. I'll be here during the week.
Oh, yeah.
That's a Wednesday night. I'll be here with my kids.
Okay.
I can't take them out to Soulard.
No, you can't.
So yeah, it'll be a little more low-key.
I mean, I did see a child at the bar at Humphreys.
Yeah, we did. I saw plenty of kids at Humphreys, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's fun for the entire family over there at Humphreys.
Humphreys is a good family.
What'd you think? Hold on. I can't believe we're going to put this at the end, but what'd you think?
It was a true blast from the past. When did it initially close?
18? 17, 18?
Was it that?
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, it was like 5 years ago.
I thought it was earlier than that. I thought
it might have been 16. But no, it was...
But I had not been there a lot in those later years. I was there all the time in 2004, 2005, and when I would come back in town in like 06, 07. It's amazing. It was a pretty faithful restoration of the space. They didn't do a whole lot new. It really is like going into the old bar again. Yeah. I was transported back in time, man. I was there with a couple friends, from SLU, from my class, and we were just overwhelmed at how much it felt the same. It was quite an experience that way.
I found it funny that they pour it's very they only give out the cups if you get a pitcher. Yeah. They do it it's not like the only way you can get a cup, right? But they pour it in regular pint glasses. Right. If you just order it draft. I was just just use cups.
Yeah.
Just use cups, unless you're pouring a Guinness.
Right.
Or one of your
something that I would order.
Yeah, some beer you would order. But yeah, hey, well, that wraps up the week that was in Billiken Athletics. Follow us on Twitter at Midtown Mad Pod, at Peter is a tweeter, at Zach Miller MMP, on Instagram at Midtown Mad Pod. We had a little more Instagram content this week because we were both in the same spot. We also appreciate any and all suggestions you may have for the show. Please go to subscribe to the show on all platforms. Leave a review. Drop us 5 stars. As always, Pete, go Bills.
Go Bills.